How's it going? I'm IlaGolden and welcome to my blog. Alright, okay, so for those of you who've been following my vlogs from the beginning, hi, thank you for doing that. I don't imagine there are very many of you at the moment. But obviously you're aware that I've gone from the longer format that I used to do into a nice, compact, shorter format. And part of the reason that I want to be doing today's topic because although I know I've touched upon it in some of my longer ones, and not everybody is going to go back and watch those longer ones, so I want to talk a little bit about the darkness in my writing and why I think it's important and why it's sort of there in one of my more shorter condensed format videos so that people who are new to this channel get a little bit of a taste of what might have been in some of those previous longer vlogs. So with that said, here we go. Um, so there's always been a slight amount of darkness in my writing and in the way I write. And I don't know if that comes from the fact that, as I mentioned in one of the longer blogs, it was essentially a nightmare that kind of started the multiverse that I ended up creating. So I don't know whether that sort of origin to everything is kind of why there's a darkness in my writing, or whether it's more to do with the fact that I genuinely believe that that the darker side of life is necessary in order for the light, the good side of life to sort of exist and to be. I am very much somebody who is of the philosophy, how can you know what happiness is if you've never experienced sadness? And that's not me sort of saying, oh, there has to be suffering. I don't want people to suffer. It's not that. It's that I think you appreciate the good more if there is bad stuff that you've had to go through and you've had to sort of conquer. And I'm very much of the belief that life is the eternal pursuit of happiness. For some people, they will achieve that really easily. For other people, it will take a long time and it will be a struggle to sort of get there. But I believe happiness is possible for everybody. So that's a little bit of my own personal philosophy in there. For those of you who don't know about Tail Saga, link is always in my description below. Tail Saga is my Yu-Gi-Oh fanfic that I talk a lot about on this channel, but it does have quite a good example as you go through the series of just how dark my writing can get, both in terms of themes and in terms of sort of symbolism and various other ways that you can make your writing kind of dark. It was definitely sort of one of the stories that kind of gave me my learning curve for just how dark I can get. And as I've gotten older, my sort of initial way of kind of like edging around that darkness to actually kind of going, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to full on with it. I don't think I'd ever reached the level I was at if it wasn't for things like the Tail Saga. It's sort of giving me my sort of comfort zone and then like slowly pushing me towards the sort of darker side of things. So when I went back and I did my most recent rewrite of it before I posted it on fanfiction.net, I did bring out a lot more of the darkness in the story from early on, and took it from being a sort of the background stuff to sort of being much more in the foreground, being much more set up for stuff that happens later on in the stories. Because okay, yes, when I first started writing it, I didn't realise it was going to end up being this epic saga. But I liked sort of going back and putting in the foreshadowing stuff, and a lot of that had the darker undertones in it because that fit in with what would happen later. I don't think I've ever written a story that hasn't had an element of darkness in it. I think even if you sort of read Echo, which I would probably class as one of my lighter stories in terms of themes, definitely there is that undertone there still, that sort of undertone of darkness in that. And in fact, there is a line from Echo that I do sort of want to quote, which would have been in Monday's part, by the way. So this is the Friday one. The Monday episode of Ida Reads would have had this line in it, and it's that which we fear or makes us uncomfortable can also inspire us. And that line itself was inspired by something one of my university lecturers sort of told me in the class, which is write what you fear. Use your fear in your writing, because it can make it more powerful. It can if you're I guess the idea is if you're writing with that sort of raw emotion, that you're afraid of something, that you're writing something because you're afraid of it, even if the reader or the viewer, depending on if it's a script or whatever, even if they're not necessarily afraid of it, if you've written it with genuine emotion, that will reach, and that will have an effect, and that will, it will give the atmosphere that you want to give. So I think even sort of before I'd had that lecture, I think I was always sort of writing with that idea in mind, that idea that you have to sort of put a bit of yourself into what you're writing in order for it to get the biggest impact and the biggest effect. And I definitely think there is definitely a lot of fear in me. And I think I sort of take that and use that sort of dark energy that it kind of creates to inform my writing. And as I've mentioned in previous vlogs, I do have a habit of kind of torturing my characters sort of emotionally and mentally and physically. And I think that comes from the idea that I believe that the struggle is part of the journey, and whether your readers are eager for the character to meet a grisly end or eager for the character to meet a positive end, if there's no journey, if there's no struggle, why would they care? So I think definitely having that element of darkness within my writing and within the way I tell stories is entirely necessary to bring out the impact, bring out the empathy, whether it's positive or negative, from the readers. So I definitely think it's sort of important within my own writing for that sort of reason. And like I said, things like the Tale Saga, that darkness can also be foreshadowing the things that are going to have to occur later, like 2 or 3 or 12 books later. Tale Saga is way too long. It's like, if you're going to read it, just read up to the end of book 8 and then maybe read the rest of it. Book 8 is fine. Book 8 is probably not the best ending. Again, the reason the ending of book 8 of the Tale Saga is, for me, so powerful and filled with so much emotion is because of the journey it takes to get there, because of all the things the characters go through to get to that point. That's where the impact comes from. That's what makes it what it is. And that constant moving between the light of all the positive stuff that goes on and the darkness of all the negative stuff that goes on, and the sort of grey in between of those things, is what makes a story. So you kind of need darkness to be in your writing in order for the story to have an impact, in order for the story to have an edge or a punch to it. It's you have to have that sort of ability to connect. And we don't live in a world that is full of sunshine and joy all the time. We do live in a world where there is a lot of negative, where there is a lot of darkness, and people struggle and go through so much stuff all the time. And if they can sort of empathize, even if it's not an exact match to the situation, even if it's just they recognize the emotions of that situation, you still need that connection. That darkness is that connection. I think it is something that we as people almost recognize more easily than the joy and the light. And I also think people are naturally drawn to the darkness. Even if they don't sort of realize it. Horror movies are a big thing. People are fascinated with serial killers, and there has to be some sort of fascination with darkness and with the less positive side of things in order for those to even kind of exist within the popular consciousness and even to draw that kind of fascination, that kind of interest out. And yeah, okay, I don't write horror, and yeah, okay, I do write serial killers, but they're not my primary thing of writing. It's not my go-to. Um, but I think even though I don't do necessarily those things, having that element of darkness there within my writing, having that sort of fascination with the hidden, less positive stuff that is bubbling below the surface, the stuff that makes everything else that goes on grey and, not necessarily all good and all sunshine, because, where's the interest in all good and all sunshine? Um, yeah, I think that is what draws my stories on, and what draws my stories to the point where I'm kind of like, yeah, I think this is good. I think this is good because you can see the emotion there, and you can see the emotion there because I've not necessarily gone all the way into the darkness, but I've acknowledged that the darkness is there, and I've drawn out enough of it to make it work. So I guess when I'm sort of talking about the darkness within my writing, I'm not necessarily talking about, although there is definite darkness in my writing, I'm not necessarily talking about, all the bad stuff. I'm talking about the rawness, the emotion. I'm talking about the contrast with the happiness and the positive side of things. I'm talking about the struggle that my characters go through. And yes, sometimes that can be very dark and very grim, and most of the time it's probably a lot lighter than a lot of people would consider to be darkness. But it's still there. It's still informing my writing. It's still making the impact that it needs to make at the moment in time that it makes it. And yeah, as I said, I think there is definitely a lot of darkness in the way that I write, but depending on how you interpret darkness, and as I said, I think some of it for me is talking more about the emotion that comes through because of the underlying darkness within the writing. Yeah, I think I've explained myself, maybe. I do words good. No, I don't. I write words good. I don't speak words good. She says. All right. Okay. So I hope this kind of made sense and sort of been interesting. As I said, I have mentioned and referred to the darkness within my writing in some of my earlier vlogs. So if you want to know more, maybe go back and check those. Certainly go back and check the one about nightmares, or the nightmare one. I can't remember the title of it now. So that might give you a better idea of what I'm trying to say here. It might not, but I just wanted to sort of do a more condensed format of it, and sort of address it more plainly. Not sure how good a job I've done, but I'm never sure how good a job I've done. So right. Okay, so next time I want to talk a little bit about my experiences at university, just because I think I might be able to sort of do a good job talking about that. Well, no, I'll be more sort of precise. I did go to university to study creative writing and drama, so it's not a completely irrelevant topic for me to talk about on my writer vlog. So yeah, next time I'm going to be talking about uni. Might be a bit more coherent than this one, might not. You'll have to tune in to find out. I hope this one's been sort of interesting, and I will see you next time. See ya! If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to check out some of my others, and if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. See ya!